Having economic opportunity is the number one thing that you can do to fight homelessness. I lived in Minneapolis my whole life. I've seen a lot of politicians come and go, make a lot of promises, and I've seen it fall flat. I have the experience and the background to provide a legitimate candidacy for the working class. Putting money back into the pockets of the working class and rebuilding that middle class economy, I think that that is the way to flip it. We're long overdue for politicians who represent that and bring that to the table.
Hey, I'm Kat from Kat Gets Money, also Kat Gets Politics, and today I'm talking to a candidate from the Minneapolis mayoral election. I want to hear more about what they're going to do for our city, and I want you to hear about it too. All right, welcome. Thank you for coming to the show. So excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Can you actually introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about who you are and why you're here and why you're running for mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Alejandro Richardson. I also go by Alex. I am a union carpenter. That's my profession. I'm also the elected vice president of Local 68, my local. We represent around 2,500 Twin Cities carpenters, and I've served in other roles in my local union for many years since I joined about 6 years ago. The reason I'm here is because you were gracious enough to invite me for an interview, so thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, getting this together. The reason that I'm running for mayor is because I've lived in Minneapolis my whole life, 30 years, and I've seen a lot of politicians come and go and make a lot of promises and, purport to represent us, and I've seen it fall flat for much of my life. For us, this is where I live, this is my home, and I think that I have the experience and the background to provide a legitimate candidacy for the working class, for somebody who lives and breathes Minneapolis, commutes throughout the city every day, throughout the metro, understands the inner workings of it, down to the nuts and bolts of what makes our city go. And I think we're long overdue for politicians who represent that and bring that to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Thank you.
So today, what we're going to do, we're going to start off with some games. Some short, simple, fun games. Don't get scared. And then we're going to go into some questions that are really intended to kind of figure out like your leadership style and what you would bring to the table as mayor. Then we're going to jump into another game, which I like to call instant accountability. And
ooh, nice.
It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into deeper dive questions on a lot of the issues that my subscribers have been submitting and wanting me to ask candidates about. And then lastly, at the end, you will have about a minute to just give your pitch to Minneapolis voters, and we'll end on that.
All right, sounds good.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so the first game we're going to play is going to be word association.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to say a word, and you say the first word that pops into your head. All right? Okay. All right. Geese.
Duck.
That's 2 words.
Sorry.
Roundabout.
Planter.
Hennepin.
Avenue.
Bike lane.
Confusing.
Riot.
Energy drink.
Trump.
There aren't words.
All right. Next game, this or that. I'm going to give you 2 things, and you pick one of the 2.
Okay.
St. Paul or Stillwater?
Ooh, Stillwater.
Wisconsin or Iowa?
Wisconsin.
Sweet Martha's Cookies or Cafe Caribe?
Cafe Caribe.
Hey.
Not even close.
I agree. But I don't know if everyone's going to agree with that. We'll see. Snow emergency or extreme heat warning?
Snow emergency, if we're talking about preference. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're Minnesotans, so.
Born in January, too, so.
Whoa.
I got it twice.
What is that? What season is that? Pisces?
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Okay.
Sorry to everybody who feels some way about Capricorns.
Y'all are out there.
Yeah, no, we're out here. Obviously, like, being a menace, causing trouble. And that's what we do.
Okay. Last one, Hennepin or Nicollet?
Nicollet.
Okay. Can you describe for me and for the audience, what does the mayor of Minneapolis actually do, in your own words? What's the job?
Well, if I look back at the last, let's say, like 15, socially aware years of my life and think about what the mayor does, I would say not a whole lot, other than like get in front of the camera and make some appearances and give some speeches and publish some nice things on a website. I remember back when
Shots fired.
Well, no, yeah, but that's every politician, right? Like that's not anything groundbreaking.
Fair.
I think literally the mayor is the CEO of the city, and he or she or they are in charge of running and operating the city to the best of their ability, making sure that public works functions, making sure that public safety, making sure that all of the things that we need in order to be successful in our own lives are open and available to us in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And so what that means for me is providing ample economic opportunity for people to thrive, a safe place to do so, and on a personal level, I think that like conservation, I know we've talked about this before, but conservation of natural resources and of natural spaces, because not everything can be, big business development. We need trees and we need natural spaces. And so that is something that I specifically would bring to the table, is kind of the collaboration and the kind of the joining of all interests of the city, trying to make it work for everybody as best as you can.
Yeah, yeah. What is something that is people think is a part of the mayor's job, but actually isn't? Is there anything like that you can think of?
Something that people think is part of the mayor's job, but isn't. Solving everyone's problems, I think, maybe, is something that we put on leadership, and something that we ascribe to our politicians and our elected leaders, that, they need to get into office, and I know it's kind of a cliche, but like wave a magic wand and somebody's going to come in and do something and everything's going to change.
Right.
But, in a city of 400,000 people, it's a huge ship. It's going to turn slow. And I think that having those kind of like pie in the sky ideals about politicians and what they can really do is harmful to them, harmful to yourself. It's, and nobody has more control over your life than you do. So I think that, expecting a politician to save you or fix all your problems is not the right idea.
Why are you running for mayor versus another political position? Like, why not city council or state senator or any other potential role? Why mayor specifically?
Realistically, it was because, if I have to be frank, it was because when I looked at the slate of candidates and I looked at what their backgrounds were and what I thought that they would potentially bring to the city, I was a little disheartened. And now, since I've gotten into the race and met some of the other candidates, I've learned to appreciate some of the things that they bring to the table. And obviously they're more than just their campaigns, and so I've gotten to know them a little better. But the real reason I ran is because, the mayor is the top dog of Minneapolis, hypothetically. And I think that people in my position are sometimes encouraged to do that. I've been encouraged to do that, to run for smaller races, to go for, hey, why don't you work on a smaller campaign, go for a city council spot, like a school board spot, whatever, and work your way up. And I think one of the problems with that is, once you get into the political world, and I've seen it happen, it has very nearly happened to me, it's so easy to get wrapped up in that, and so easy to get swallowed once you're, coming in at the ground level and trying to work your way up. There's a very specific way that they want you to do that, and they want you to play politics. I know it's another cliche, but I want to subvert all of that. I have no interest in playing politics with anybody. I think that the political games that get played with people's livelihoods are anywhere from ridiculous to dangerous. I want to get somebody in our mayoral office at the head of the table that is going to bring the kind of leadership and the kind of perspective that we really need.
Tell me about a hard lesson that you've learned recently. What was that like, and what was the lesson?
So there was a sanctuary that was set up for the homeless, for people experiencing homelessness in Powderhorn, and bloomed into this huge humanitarian effort for our homeless community. And I, living literally across the street from where it was going on, I jumped in and wanted to do everything I could. And so I spent a lot of time getting supplies there, organizing with neighbors about how we could support them, and ended up being one of the people who pushed the sanctuary at the time. I think it was called the Sanctuary Movement, or the Sanctuary Encampment Movement, to push it beyond the boundaries of Powderhorn. And I helped set up some satellite sites at other public parks throughout Minneapolis for the homeless to camp in, basically, and to set up other encampments and sanctuaries. And through doing that, I had my eyes open to some of the realities of what life is like living on the streets. Not because I needed to, but because it was part of what I was trying to do. I slept in tents overnight at some of the encampments. I really got to know the residents of those places really personally, and did everything that I could, and really went outside of myself to try and help. And one of the lessons that I learned in that, and it was hard and painful and at sometimes scary, was that there is a real risk to kind of blind altruism. It can end up getting you or people hurt or scarred for life because of the situations that you're putting yourself in. And so the lesson that I learned was, you need to tread very carefully and make sure you really understand things of that nature when you're dealing with really vulnerable people, or you're dealing with people who are struggling mightily in their own lives, that you need to be really thoughtful about how you approach that and about how you try and solve those problems. Because if you don't understand them, you open yourself and others up to a lot of danger sometimes.
Yeah. How would you take that experience as mayor to policy? What did you learn from that you might apply politically if you got the power to?
I think that what I learned and what I would apply is that there is no sense and no justice and no compassion in treating people who are going through crisis, people who are experiencing homelessness, people who are experiencing addiction, drug, or otherwise. There's no sense in treating them different than anyone else on a basic human level. Just enforcing rules across the board, not giving people passes simply because of their identity, not treating people differently because of the situations that they're in or their identity, whether that be racial or sexual orientation or anything like that. Everybody deserves equal rights, and at the end of the day, if the end goal for us as a society, as a people, is equality, then that starts at home. That starts with us treating everybody the same, because there are plenty of people who do all of the, who are in all of these difficult scenarios, struggling with things in their life, who don't do harm to others. To paint that community with such a broad brush and say, hey, they all need to be, we need to find a solution for all of them, blah, blah, blah. There are people there that are, yes, very deep in the trenches. There are people there that are just one step away from finding something better for themselves, and they just need a small amount of aid. But lumping them in with all the people who, for lack of a better term, could give an F, then, they get lost and they lose out on the opportunity to do better for themselves. And so I think trying to find distinctions between those things in policy, make opportunities and services readily available to those who are, and then realizing that, hey, there are some people who aren't ready and don't want that, and we need to just be able to separate that.
I see. Can you give an example of you talked about making sure that things are enforced and that everybody's treated equally. Can you give a concrete example of what you mean by that?
Yeah, so let's say, there's an encampment, or and I know that there's been a lot of turmoil around the business owner over here in South Minneapolis, who has opened up, I think it's South Minneapolis, who's opened up their property to an encampment that was then, cleared, and now there's a lawsuit and all these things. I think that one of the concrete ways that I would enforce policy is saying that regardless of how harmful it may seem to clear encampments or to try and find services for these people, it is not a more compassionate answer to just let them exist in these terrible situations. And I know our current mayor has come under fire for some of the things that he said about those places that I know specifically he said, open air drug market, whatever. But he's not wrong, and I've seen it firsthand too. And so being able to, face the harsh reality of those situations and try and take that to policymaking is difficult. But at the end of the day, there has to be some action. And so I would say Like, I'm not in favor of like a violent removal or displacement of any people, but I'm also not in favor of allowing like a terrible and damaging and violent and destructive situation to continue in that way.
What would you do?
I would...
If you were mayor right now in this specific situation you bring up, what would you do?
I don't think that I would have brought legal action into play. I think that is kind of... I think that's a little bit of a waste of resources. I'm not really a big fan of, just suing everybody over everything. I know that that's kind of, as Americans, our way of doing things. But I would have... Yeah, I probably would have said this can't exist the way that it does. People need to leave. People need to disperse. I get that it's on private property, and so maybe a legal avenue was the only way that they actually could enforce that. But saying, again, that these are people that deserve to be treated the same as everybody else, and what society tells all of us is, hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You don't have to do, I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything you have to do with your life, but I am going to tell you that there are some things that you cannot do, which is like openly use hard drugs on the streets, leave needles laying around, engage in like sex trafficking and violence and, harm towards others. Those are things that are laws that keep our society together, and I think it's important to enforce those. So if people are violating the law in that way, then they need to be arrested, they need to go to jail. And if they're not, if they really do need help and need services, there are tons of people doing amazing work all over the city to provide resources for those people and making them available, letting them know, hey, these are the places that you can go and the things that you can do. But ultimately, it's your choice. If you choose not to do that, then I'm not going to tell you what it is that you specifically have to do, because I don't think that that's the role of the mayor. I don't think that's the role of any public official or the cops or anybody to tell everybody else what to do. But I am going to tell you that there's a limit on what you can do, just like there is on everybody else in society.
I want to ask you one more question on a bit of a different note, and then we're going to jump into our game.
Sure.
So this is a bit of a more casual question.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a theme song, what would your theme song be?
For myself personally?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's tough. There are... I think right now I'm kind of in a little bit of my like country western era, and
okay.
I don't know if you know who Charlie Crockett is, but there's a song called Paint It Blue.
Okay.
I think that if I had to, and it's unfortunate that the Democrats have kind of this monopoly on the color blue. I've been a registered Democrat most of my life. I'm running as an independent for mayor, but he has a song called Paint It Blue, and I ascribe the color blue to blue collar, which is my background. It's where I come from, and where I always hope to remain. And so that would be it. Paint It Blue by Charlie Crockett.
Okay, I'm gonna listen to that after this.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna play a game that I like to call instant accountability. So you have a chance to win some things in this game and also lose some things in this game.
All right.
And so the way that this is gonna work is I'm gonna ask you 5 questions. For each of the questions, you're going to have 30 seconds to answer. And what I'm looking for is, are you proposing a specific policy to answer this question? Is it a specific answer? Doesn't mean I have to agree with it or not. Mm-hmm. Just that, is it specific? Versus, some of the flowery language that politicians like to use sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to have 30 seconds to provide an answer. If you give a specific answer, then you win yourself a donut. We got the donuts right here.
Oh, no. Ugh, I can't eat donuts.
So you can give it to somebody.
I have a gluten allergy. And so, yeah. They're, it's not like dire, but it's one of those things that, if I have a beer, then I probably shouldn't have a donut, but it's, but in the spirit of it, I will take it, and maybe we'll give it to somebody. I might have somebody I could give it to. So.
Yeah, maybe give somebody a gift of a donut. I apologize.
Absolutely.
I should have asked. There's this thing we learned today. We got to ask ahead of time if folks have gluten allergies.
Yeah, I love being the trial run. I make a lot of mistakes. You can make. We can make mistakes together. It's fine.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you don't give me a specific answer, what happens is there's a bunch of props over there, including that goose.
Oh, nice.
And you're going to have to answer the rest of the questions holding those props.
You think that this is a punishment, but in reality, like, this looks kind of cool. But okay, I hear you. All right, let's do it.
You don't get to keep the goose, just saying. The goose is mine.
All right.
I rush ship that goose.
That's the punishment. You give it to me and then you take it away.
Yeah, you have to bear the pain of losing the goose.
All right, fair enough.
All right, okay. We're going to start with the topic we were talking about earlier, homelessness. Mm-hmm. What would you do to reduce homelessness in Minneapolis? Go.
To reduce homelessness in Minneapolis, I would provide accredited job training and policies that counteract some of the things that at the federal government they're trying to hamstring in terms of apprenticeship programs, registered apprenticeship programs. They're trying to really do away with that. And this is partially because of my union background. I understand this so well. But having economic opportunity is probably, in my opinion, the number one thing that you can do to fight homelessness. And so what I would do is make sure that those things in our...
I'm going to give you that one.
Okay, thank you. I kind of forgot about the time limit. I could just go on about that for a long time.
All right.
That was my hook.
One.
Was that like my shut up? Stop.
Yeah, that was a nice long one. Yeah, literally. That's a good answer. I mean, that's a specific answer. So thank you. I appreciate it. Let's move on to the next one. You won a donut right there. So that's one. There's 6 donuts in that box. And by the way, if you get all 5, then you get all 6 donuts. You can just take the whole box.
Oh damn! So. All right. Yeah. Well,
okay.
All right.
But then you don't get to hold the goose. So it's decisions, man.
Just throw this one then. Right.
Okay, next one. Housing crisis. How would you increase the supply of affordable housing in Minneapolis over the next 2 years? Go.
To increase the supply of affordable housing, I would expand, but also retool a little bit the 2040 plan that Jacob Fry put into place in order to continue to develop mixed-use commercial housing, but at a slightly smaller scale. So I would focus on incentives for like cooperative ownership of like duplexes, converted houses, things like that, so that people could, rent to own and get into good housing situations, good sustainable housing situations, not just like density-focused apartment building.
Okay, great. I'm going to give you that one too. That's 2 donuts.
Nice. Kind of on a roll.
You are on a roll.
Farther away from the goose, though. Not happy with that.
Further away from the goose, exactly. Police reform. Minneapolis has had a lot of challenges with police. Can you talk a little bit about how you would work with police as mayor and specifically improve public safety in the city? Go.
One of the things that I would do is look at the salaries. This might not be a popular opinion among many people in our city, but police officers are working a job just like everybody else. And in order to recruit talent for jobs, you need to pay well, you need to provide good benefits, you need to feel like they have a good working environment in order to be successful. So I would look at their pay scale and look at and negotiations in their contract and how they would need to be incentivized to perform better.
Yeah. You got the donut. That's specific.
Thank you.
For you. Healthcare. What would you do to reduce health disparities in Minneapolis? In Minneapolis, we have, and in Minnesota in general as a state, we have very different health outcomes, both by race and by socioeconomic status as well. We have really big health gaps. What would you do to address those disparities? Go.
This is something that just on a whole I think is a little bit out of the purview of the mayoral office, but one of the things that I would do is continue to invest in and promote some of the like farm to table initiatives that are going on. And actually there are some, I know that I kind of digged St. Paul earlier, but St. Paul has some really interesting initiatives around like local farming and farm to table and cooperative food sources like that. So I would work to improve those because I think that is where health starts, is in what we put in our bodies.
So that one was specific, but I don't really see how it's addressing disparities between different people. I feel like that helps everybody, right? Like that's just good for everyone.
Yeah, you can dock me for that one, and I will fully admit
I'm gonna have to dock you. You get the goose.
The goose. All right. I knew it was
Bring
coming.
in the goose.
I knew I was gonna mess up eventually.
Now you will be, next couple of questions, you'll be holding that goose.
Does the goose have a name?
We haven't named it yet. Do you want to name it? Do you want to name the goose?
Yeah, but give me some time with it.
Okay.
Let me feel it out. You feel it out.
Yes, you feel it out what its name is. Or,
Yeah. Wow, it's got really piercing eyes.
It does. It
All
does
right.
have piercing eyes. Okay. Last question, and then I'm going to have you hold on to that goose for a couple more. Climate change. Climate change is a big challenge for the entire world right now. What would you do in Minneapolis specifically to help us prepare for it? Go.
There are a lot of things around like packaging that I think that we could do a little bit better on. I know that we banned plastic bags and then instituted a plastic bag tax, and I know it's kind of like loosely enforced, but I think that we are long overdue for a crackdown on some of like our single-use plastic stuffs. And I know that this has been talked about a lot, and I know it always kind of falls flat, but realistically that does need to happen. And so I would say cracking down on packaging requirements, single-use plastics, also composting I think is a huge thing.
I think those are great initiatives, but I don't think that, or maybe convince me a little bit. How does that help prepare us for climate change?
You know what? I will say that it is not a good answer to the question.
All right.
It was not a good answer to the question.
You've got. I don't think you saw who is coming next for you. Next couple of questions, you've got to. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah, put them on.
Right, sure.
Put them on and hold them up. It's extra tough because you got to balance them with the goose.
Right, I have to balance them with the goose. I also have to hold this mic.
Yep.
Which now I'm taking my mic hand away.
Oh man.
God. All right.
Oh, you're gonna.
No. This is the thing about carpenters. We make it work. We
Love
make it
it.
work.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Has the goose name come to you yet?
It's giving femme.
Ooh.
Think that it something matronly like Martha almost is kind of speaking to me.
Martha the goose.
Martha, yeah, but I don't know if I don't know about that specifically. I'm gonna go with Bertha.
Bertha the goose.
Bertha
All
the
right.
goose.
Bertha
Yeah.
the goose.
It's just what's coming to me.
Well, that's her name for sure until the next one. So.
All right.
Trump has been pushing heavily on cities across the country, and obviously he's huge force in our government and in our country right now. Mm-hmm. How would you address that here in Minneapolis as mayor? Would you work with Trump directly? Would you push back against him? How do you see your relationship and any kind of policy in that role play out?
It's a big part of my job currently and a big part of who I am as a person to try and relate to everybody and to get along with everybody and to reach across any divide. And with President Trump, that would probably be my biggest test yet. The things that he's done, the way that he operates, the lack of respect that he has for basically everyone and everything is kind of astounding. But I would do my best to try and influence his view of the city, to paint us in a more positive light in his eyes, only because I don't think that the opposite of that, the full hard wall against him, to really like go, clash with him is an effective solution either.
Yeah.
I don't think that, turning, about face and saying that I don't want anything to do with him and, F him and that, we're not going to play ball and we're going to be, completely staunchly, against the federal government. I just don't think that that's an effective thing for our city to be doing. I don't think that it's going to get us anything that we want. And so up until the point that it was beneficial for our city, I would work with him. I would do whatever it took to get what I want for Minneapolis from him. And if we ever reached a point where that wasn't possible, I would say, hey, listen, like we can't play ball anymore. I don't want anything to do with your federal policies. I don't want anything to do with the way that you're, using ICE. I know this may come up again.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up is specifically like, what about ICE?
Yeah, let's get into it. I think, so I don't know how much you know about my background yet or what you've surmised from our conversation so far, but so my dad was an illegal immigrant. He immigrated from Mexico when he was a teenager, and after many, many years and many, many legal processes and many deportations, he was able to finally gain citizenship. But the earliest memory that I have of my dad is in an orange jumpsuit after getting arrested simply for being an illegal immigrant. And so that was incredibly difficult. That being said, and I say that only to just let people know and let the voters know that this is an issue that has like touched me in countless ways, and affected my entire life, my entire upbringing. But understanding that they are a government agency that exists, they do have a job to do, and if they're coming after violent criminals, then at the very least we need to not stand in their way. There have been people who have asked me about, would you use Minneapolis police to, fight ICE? Would you declare war with ICE with MPD? And no, I would not. But I would make sure that they were only doing what was absolutely necessary to bring safety to our communities. So if at any point I felt like, I am not okay with them just simply targeting random immigrants, and saying like, hey, you look like you might be illegal, let's get you out. In my opinion, like, if you're here now and you're not breaking the law, I have no problem with you. Like, you have the right to everything that my dad had, when he came to this country, to make a better life for himself, to have children, to create me, and to have a family, and to pursue a good life. If that's not what you're doing here, then yes, unfortunately, that is the arm of law enforcement that is going to enforce that. But I am willing to make that distinction. I'm willing to draw that line between what I think their appropriate actions are and what they aren't.
So essentially what you're saying is that you would have MPD work with ICE for the deportation of violent criminals and the apprehension of violent criminals, but you would not have them work with ICE for targeting any other immigrants that are here. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, actually. So maybe I phrased that poorly, but I wouldn't have MPD. It would not be a part of my policy to have MPD work with ICE in any way. I don't think that that's a good use of their time or of the people's resources and money and the taxpayers' money for our police department to help a federal agency. That is not what I'm proposing at all. What I'm saying is that if it came down to it and we did need to oppose ICE in any way, the ways that I would use the Minneapolis Police Department to oppose ICE would not simply be, whole cloth. Anytime we see ICE, MPD is like, on them. I would say, all right, they can do what they're doing, but we are watching you, and the police would be a part of that. And if they did cross that boundary, that is when MPD would step in. But no, I would not have Minneapolis police help and aid in ICE, even for criminal apprehensions at all, unless, there's not really an unless. It's federal money. They can do what they want with it, and they don't need our money.
I see. Got it. Okay. Let's switching gears a little bit. Buildings downtown right now are selling for a fraction of the cost that they, or the value that they had even a few years ago. Are there any policies that you would propose to address that? Is it an issue that you care about? Talk to me a little bit about kind of like that trend that we're seeing in downtown revival as a whole.
It's not something that so this is one of those things that I say, the mayoral office and, public elected officials in general, it's not our job to control the free market, and to come in and say, wow, economic stimulus is one thing, but to say like we need to put checks and balances in place for every aspect of the free market, I don't think that that's our job. So there is, there's a downtown council, the CEO of the downtown council is, I wouldn't necessarily say a friend, but an acquaintance, Adam Dunnick, and I know that he is well equipped to do his job. He and the downtown council are working on a number of great initiatives for downtown revitalization. In terms of, the real estate, I'm not a real estate agent. I can't sit here and say that I know how to, boost, lower, whatever the selling prices for buildings downtown. That's not my purview, and I don't think that that's in the purview of the mayoral office. I think that putting policies in place that incentivize economic investment and sustainable economic growth for Minneapolis, I think that would help with downtown revitalization. But this is something that I would certainly lean on others to inform me on.
Got it. Okay, I think we can give up your goose now, if that's okay with you. You can take the goose. Alex, can you help us a little bit? with
Thanks, Alex.
a goose and the puppet. You can take the puppet too.
Oh, the puppet's kind of stiff. Yeah, that's got cameras. Thank you.
All right. A few more policy questions, and then we'll get into our end game here. So,
Sure.
Wealth inequality has been increasing around the country. There was a recent article out about how the top 10% of earners are spending about 50% of consumer spending. So we're starting to see that then play out with, restaurants and travel experiences really catering to that top 10% and trying to get that much bigger wallet size. We're seeing that in our city, but also across the country. As mayor, what would you do to make sure that, the bottom 90%, most people are not getting left behind with these economic trends?
I'm gonna fall back on my, this isn't necessarily 100% in the mayoral purview and in their scope to control the free market. I think that the policies that I would put in place, and I'm gonna be frank with you about this one. One of the reasons why most people and like the middle class economy, let's call it, has not been working in Minneapolis has been because of, I think, somewhat of a lack of creativity. I think that large corporations, and I think that many small business owners, not small, I shouldn't say small business owners, but business owners and whatever, they, those are choices that they're making. They're going after those target markets intentionally because they think that that's where the money is, right?
Yep.
And for a lot of them, they might be right. That is where the money is. So in order to flip that, in my mind, putting money back into the pockets of the working class and rebuilding that middle class economy so that those people do have more money to spend and they're seen more as a target market, I think that is the way to flip it. So getting, again, accredited job programs, people trained in jobs that we know are necessary and that have been like neglected in policy making because retirement ages keep going up, pensions keep going down, healthcare keeps getting more and more expensive, and so getting things in place that boost getting job opportunities for people coming out of high school, coming out of college in the city of Minneapolis, jobs like I have, frankly, blue collar jobs, whether they be in the building trades, whether they be in textiles, whether they be in even in artistic and creative spaces, being willing to invest in those things to truly rebuild the middle class economy and not only focusing on the richest people and corporations when we're talking about policies. And let me be clear, I think that there's a huge opportunity for partnership with them, and I would love to see more of a bridge between our largest corporations and those 10% spending 50% of the wealth. I'd love to see more of a collaboration between them and the working middle class in terms of how we can build that up and how people can have better job opportunities and better economic outcomes.
Yeah. So you mentioned job programs. Anything else?
There's, incentives for small businesses, but also corporate partnerships, getting them on board with a new vision for our future, for a new vision of their own labor force, for how things are produced. I am obviously I am huge on our country and on America and building things here, building things in America, being willing to divest from foreign manufacturing, bringing those jobs back home. I think that that's a huge deal. So I would love to create a lot of incentives for the larger corporations and for those wealthier individuals around here who are looking to invest in things. I would love to create more opportunities for them to partner with the working class to get them back to work.
You mentioned previously that you don't want to mess with the free market, though.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't requiring or even incentivizing potentially manufacturers to bring manufacturing back to the United States and to Minnesota in particular, wouldn't that be trying to influence the free market if they can get that labor cheaper elsewhere? Where do you draw the line, I guess, in that philosophy?
I draw the line the place that I feel like it's the most beneficial for, I guess you could say U.S. citizens, but citizens of Minneapolis, at the point where I think that this idea, and this is the political, the kind of the political doublespeak and the political games that people play, where like you try and paint everything with a broad brush, and you say, oh well, you're messing with the free market. Oh, but if you don't do anything, then you're blah blah blah, and we paint ourselves into a corner. And so yeah, I would draw the line at like what is actually best for Minneapolis residents, what they want. I would listen to them. I would say, hey, what kind of jobs do you want to work? Where do you want your goods to come from? What is important to you? What are those values? And how can we make that happen? If that means influencing the free market, if that means doing something with, whatever, like I'm willing to do it. I'm not willing to take anything off the table. I just don't think it's specifically the job of politicians to, dictate in their view how it should be. But it is their job to listen to the public and put in place the things that they want to see happen, and I think that everybody throughout the country, but obviously in Minneapolis too, people are crying out for like more meaningful work, for jobs that, impact their communities, for goods and services that are more sustainably produced locally. I mean, that is just, everybody wants that.
Yeah.
And politicians, they play these games and say like, oh, well, if you do that, then you're blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, it's what needs to happen. So let's make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, and part of why I'm pushing you on this is because right now there is this discourse going on nationally about how we interact with the free market, right? I think for a long time in American history, there on both parties, there was this kind of doubling down on like, we don't want to mess with the market and push to that. And now, whether it's from Republicans or Trump, MAGA in particular, wanting to specifically on manufacturing a lot of the time, move it back, or tariffs, that's messing with the free market, or if it's sometimes more on the left of other, rent control or other types of policies that also mess with the free market. And I'm not necessarily saying one is right or wrong, but I think as a nation, we're kind of like grappling with that right now. And so I'm trying to pin like, where do you sit on that? Because what I think plays out to a lot of regular people is the free market gets messed with when the wealthy want it to. Like, that's what it kind of feels like sometimes, is like when somebody wants to, do insider trading or something else, like then they mess with the market.
Right.
But otherwise, everybody else gets left behind.
Who they want to bail out, who they don't want to bail out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. No, and I think you're right to push on that. And I think that there's people are going to draw the line. Yeah. Like politicians draw the line every day. Economists draw the line every day. Reports come out of the Fed and, out of the treasurer. And so having the right people in place to draw those lines in different places so that it really does work for the majority of Americans, or in our case, speaking of the mayoral race, Minneapolis residents, I think that you just got to have the right people at the seat of the table so that when those decisions get made and somebody does have to draw the line, which they will, that the person who's doing that has your best interests at heart and relates to you and not only represents you, but is one of you, because people will talk and politicians will say a lot of things about representing people and, I speak for them, whatever. But if their class interest isn't the same, if they're not actually like going back home to that same situation, living with the consequences of those decisions, they're going to make the decision that works for them and their people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way. Switching gears a little bit, Canadian wildfires. We've had a wild summer with the air quality here in Minneapolis, and wildfire smoke really impacting us here. Are there things that you would do as mayor to address air quality in the city?
I think it'd be silly to sit here and pretend like I have an answer for Canadian wildfires. In terms of air quality overall, I think that, there are policies that we could or could not institute in terms of public transit, in terms of, incentivizing people to drive less maybe, or to put pollution caps. There's, the environmental crisis is so pervasive and so wide-ranging that, maybe after I'm mayor of Minneapolis for a decade or so, maybe I become president, and then maybe I can maybe I can really, take a swing at something like that. But there's a lot of stuff that doesn't, that is completely out of our control. And I think the Canadian wildfires are one of those things. As far as air quality in Minneapolis, there are other things that I would look at, but specifically about wildfires, I would say, if Canada needs help fighting their wildfires, I would aid them in all their efforts. I would listen to the people who are experts on the subject, and I would go from there.
Yeah, there's some local representatives that had written a letter basically requesting that an intergovernmental agency between Canada and the U.S. put together like a task force and a lot of political stuff. But
yeah, it sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, would you be willing to put money towards this issue? I guess air quality in general. It doesn't have to be Canadian wildfires specifically, but improving air quality in Minneapolis.
Yeah, towards improving air quality in Minneapolis, yeah, absolutely. I'm an environmentalist, but I am no environmental scientist. I'm not an expert on the subject in terms of air quality, but it is 100% a priority to me. And so again, I would lean on the experts. I would listen to people who have things to say and good suggestions on the subject, and I would go from there.
What environmental policies, it doesn't have to be about air quality, what are like some of the top environmental priorities you would have?
I think that water quality is a huge one. This is going to be an unpopular opinion to some, and it's been an unpopular opinion from me towards my own industry, coming from construction. But things like data centers, things that we know are huge drains on our resources for really not much of a net good other than like some small economic, some small proposed economic boost. And like, yeah, we'll have some jobs for a little bit, whatever. But like, sacrificing the quality of our water and like our natural, like I'm not willing to go without water so that Facebook can store more data in Minnesota. I think that those are some of the, and so if that kind of stuff brings itself to Minneapolis, if we're talking about, where we need to draw that line there, I think that we need to take a hard look at, where we're selling off our resources and where we're compromising the good of Minneapolis in order for economic gain.
Yeah. Going back to you as a candidate, or just as a person. Tomorrow is never promised. What kind of legacy are you hoping to leave?
Minneapolis is my home, and the legacy that I will leave in Minneapolis will be that I got up every single day and did everything that I possibly could to better our city, whatever that means. It's something that I do now. It's something that I've done and aspired towards. Not always done perfectly and certainly failed at many times. But at the end of the day, we all get to wake up and make choices in our own life. And the choices that I want to make are those that benefit my neighbors, benefit the people around me, benefit the city of Minneapolis, benefit myself. Because I believe that the life that I live, the goals that I have, and the aspirations that I have are truly those of the popular good. And so, if anything, the legacy that I'd like to leave is that of an example for people who want to do good in the city, who want to live a positive and righteous life for their neighbors and for those around them, and show them that you don't need to have a college, you don't need to have a fancy college degree, you don't need to be the most well-spoken person, you don't need to be from any kind of specific background at all, or any kind of anything to do good for yourself and for others. And so, if there was a legacy that I'd like to leave, it's just that of an example for the generations that come after us that, hey, you can do it as a working person. Those are the people who make this city run, and you can get up every day and live a good and positive life, and there will be a reward for that.
Kind of talking about that younger generation, if there's a 18-year-old watching this right now, voting for the first time, just getting into politics, doesn't really know what's going on. Maybe they do a little bit, not saying, I felt like I knew what I was going on when I was 18. I felt like I knew everything.
No kidding.
But just brand new to the whole thing, trying to figure it out. What would you say to that person?
I would tell them that there is a better world to be had. But the reason that we don't have it is because not enough people have stood up and said, we demand it. And this is all I can do. All I am is one person, and all any of us can do is take that upon ourselves to go out and seize that life that we want. And I am here to provide my small vision of what I think that might be. And I want everybody who is going to the voting booth or thinking about voting or thinking about why it's stupid to vote and why it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, now in this race in Minneapolis for mayor, it does matter. Yeah. Because you have me as a candidate, and I am you. I was you. We are us. But yeah,
your new campaign slogan?
Just like that. But yeah, and also, congratulations. Congratulations to entering into adulthood, because it's not easy, and you're about to embark on a crazy journey of your 20s, and getting involved in politics early will teach you a lot of things. So go out, vote. Contact me on TikTok. I finally put up a website. Yeah, Shauna, you were kind of the pusher for that.
Oh, great! What's the website? Wait, what?
Alejandro for Mayor.
Alejandro for Mayor.
Alejandro for Mayor.
.com.
Or maybe it's Alejandro from Minneapolis.
Uh oh.
Hold on, wait. Oh, hold on, we're gonna check this. It's that new. No, it's not. It's not brand new, but it is that new.
I'm so glad you did.
Thank you. Alejandro for Mayor. I got it right the first time. Thank you. .com. AlejandroForMayor.com. It's just it's just a little one-page blurb that has kind of my key points, who I am, what I'm about. But reach out to me however you can get a hold of me. If you want to drop a line on TikTok, like we can chat. And yeah, let's talk about politics and why they're stupid and why they need to be different.
Hell yeah. Okay, now I want to hear about some of your Minneapolis favorites. Your top spots in Minneapolis. Let's go with coffee shops first. What's your favorite coffee shop?
Favorite coffee shop. I like 5 Watt over there on Nicollet. It's in the neighborhood. Mayday Cafe will probably always hold the number 1 spot for me, because it's very close to my house. It has employed a number of my friends, and they do great food and drink, and always have, and now they're workers cooperative, which I think is awesome.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that is really cool. Okay, restaurant.
Favorite restaurant, seafood, the Ocean Air, down here downtown. It has moved locations. It used to be kind of a tucked away little spot in the upstairs of a hotel, and now it's like a main storefront right there. I think on Nicollet Mall maybe, but just the crab cakes could sustain me for the rest of my life. I'm not kidding you.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to try them. I haven't tried.
Please do.
Okay, what's your favorite place to party?
Favorite place to party? Okay, so there's a spot that unfortunately no longer exists, and if elected mayor, I would do everything I could to bring it back. But it's called Honey, and it was, I don't know, I don't know if anybody's been personally victimized in a good way by Honey, but it's that doesn't look like a good place. That was
I'm gonna let you finish.
What I used to do before I got into construction was I worked in restaurants, and one of the things that I did was kind of manage, ad hoc a poolside bar over there off of B'nai at the time, Lake Calhoun, at the Calhoun Beach Club, and we had a pool like DJ, and he was also, there were a couple of them, and one of them was also a DJ at Honey. And so he would always play great music, like good throwback, 90s, R&B, hip-hop, disco, stuff like that. Stuff that I like to dance to. So he'd play a great set at Honey. I went there many times. Still have some funny Snapchat videos. Maybe I'll show them to you later. But it was just a really, like, honest-to-God good dance party many nights. Now you tell your piece. What about Honey?
I got robbed at Honey.
No. Not like in like a violent way. I hope not.
No, it wasn't in a violent way. Somebody like snagged my phone, and I have one of those wallet phones, so it had all my credit cards in it. Like, and then they went and they spent it at the bar, like, and they only bought like $60 worth of drinks on my credit card. I was like, these people are dumb. But either way, I never got my stuff back. I filed a police report. Of course, they didn't do anything. So, by the way, as mayor, to the cat going to Honey and getting her night ruined, what would you do in that situation? What would you do as mayor to make those kinds of things get a little better around here?
One of my main points of my campaign is public safety and police responsiveness. I know there are many people, myself included, who have mixed feelings about MPD, about the Minneapolis Police Department. They are fighting a tough job, and they're not very well loved, and that it's difficult to see anybody being successful in that situation. I think at the very least what I've experienced, what you experienced probably, is a little bit of a lack of responsiveness and a little bit of a lack of urgency. And so in your specific scenario, I would like to see them respond sooner. It's one of those areas where there's so many administrative hang-ups and so much like paper pushing that goes on that I think technology could really aid in kind of like speeding along those processes.
Kind of got a little aside there because you love Honey.
I do. Rest in peace. So that's not really a fair answer to your question, because you asked me where I like to party now. I don't do a whole lot of partying now. I love going to Lynx games. I'm a Minnesota Lynx season ticket holder, so a big part of my partying. I go and I cheer for our women.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
yeah.
great. What's a hidden gem a lot of people don't know about in Minneapolis that you'd recommend?
A hidden gem that I would recommend in Minneapolis would probably be... Man, the nice thing about Minneapolis is a lot of places get really good publicity, but Momo Sushi, which actually I'm going to plug because they just had a fire.
They did.
That was really sad.
Yeah.
But actually some of the best sushi that I've ever had, particularly the Yellowtail, that place is fantastic. And I know that there's plenty of people that know about it. There's, like I said, I'm not going to be the one who gives you like any deep cut that, no, I'm not that kind of person. I get out, but not
actually,
that much.
As mayor, that's a requirement. You have to like know all the secret best spots.
All right.
Just saying.
I will put that
requirement. We're gonna add that to the submission for when you're submitting for mayor. There's gonna be like a checkbox to like
you have
quiz
to list.
you.
Yeah. There's gonna be a quiz on deep cuts and good plugs and unknowns. Yeah, that would be my kind of my hidden gem that I think everybody should get to. They have a great ambiance too. Super good service, like really fast.
Have you been to Momo Cafe yet?
No, is that related?
Yeah, they're owned by the same owner, and it's a great place to go now, especially since like Momo Sushi had a fire. They also have like dumplings there, but it's actually really affordable, like for good matcha and like tea. Great place to work. Like it's a really good vibe. All right. On that note, take the last minute here to give your pitch to Minneapolis voters.
Yeah. Well, as I said before, this is I'm just one person. And I know when I think about this and when I think about these discussions that we have and when I think about all the promises that many politicians have made for eons, behind that, there are all of the working people who go and do their jobs every day, and specifically like our government workers, the people who work in the mayor's office, the people who work alongside them to perform all these services and run all these programs. And when political candidates get up in front of the camera, like we are now, and make all these promises, all those working people are sitting in their offices, they're sitting at home, and they're rolling their fucking eyes. And they're saying, this idiot has no idea what they're talking about. They are going to go up there just like they do all the time, just like they do every year, and make all these promises. And so what's different now, what's different about me, and what's different about people like me, because I hope more people like me run, is that I understand that. I understand what it means to be a working person. I understand what it means to fight and to struggle and to worry about property taxes, to worry about how my mom's going to retire, to worry about, who's going to care for, my children when I have to go to work, all these things. I share the same struggle. And when it comes to policymaking, I am not an expert. I am not a politician. I am, again, barely college educated. But I understand what it means to live this life that we are all striving towards and that we are all struggling towards as working people. And I think it's so, so, so important that we get more people like that in office. And I'm not saying that's the only reason we need to elect people, because obviously there are tons of working people who have no business being politicians. But if you're looking for a working person who has the qualifications, who has the leadership skills, and who wants to do it and who cares about this city, that is me. That is me to a T. And I truly believe that I am the best candidate for this office. And at this point, there are other great candidates and there are other great working people running. I don't want to say that there aren't. I don't want to sell them short either, because there are other good people running in this race who are of the working class. But I think that I specifically have some of the qualities and have some of the experience and have, I don't have kids. I don't have anything else to take up my time. He's
not busy. His nights are free.
Okay. I am busy, but now most of it's about this race. But anyway, I felt the calling to run. I feel like it has to happen eventually, and if not me, then who? So, and I would share that message with everybody. If not you, then who?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what do you think about that? Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if you like what I'm doing here, consider donating.